Come along, come along, come along. Let's go.
Realtor
You
Joe.
this guy again.
Realtor Joe, how you doing today?
I'm good, my brother. I'm good. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Today I think
NASA, right? Is it NASA or NASA?
Same one. Anyone counts. Call me whichever is fine.
How you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Has been the week, has been the month.
Can't complain. God has been faithful.
Absolutely.
What can we say? Thank God for what's it called? Where are we now? Spring?
Yeah.
Yeah, rain is coming out. Things are looking up. So it's great. We're excited for the spring market and the summer market as well.
Yeah,
in the real estate industry,
absolutely. I mean, our buyers can now, get out there. Sellers can look at what's happening right now.
Exactly.
Things are moving quickly
Yes.
these days. So I think it's a
yes.
good time for buyers, for sellers.
Everybody just needs to jump in now.
Absolutely.
As long as it works for you and your family. And
Yep.
if you're thinking of making that move, reach out to us and let's see how we can get you that dream property.
Yeah, and like we always say, the key thing for us is the customized approach.
Yep.
Right? No one size fits all. So we look
Absolutely.
at your situation and then be able to craft a model that works for you.
Exactly. I mean, we're salespeople.
Yeah.
It's in the genes, so we have to do. It's natural to us, right?
Absolutely.
It's natural to us.
Absolutely.
But then today we're taking a different approach, I believe, because today we're actually on the same side.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you don't get to find me to be on your side all the time, right? But
Right.
today is one of those days where I've decided to be on your side.
The same side. And the reason for this conversation I would like us to have today is because of the different conversations that's been happening over the course of time with respect to real estate agents.
Yeah.
So people might be thinking to themselves, like, what do real estate agents really do? Like, do we need real estate agents? This is a question that people have. Sometimes people buy properties and they're thinking, oh, you just showed me maybe you showed me a property or two or whatever, and then you're making this much commission. Like, why?
Why? Yeah. What are you doing?
As a buyer's agent, number one, and even on the seller's agent side as well. I think they have it a little bit. Sellers
I
agents,
mean, they're less bothered because they're not the one paying. In the case they're the one buying, right?
right. So as a seller's agent, I mean, their value is more eminent, so to speak.
They can see the value of what you're offering, right?
Exactly, because you are in some cases we're staging properties for our clients. In some cases as well, we're also coming up with the marketing strategy and everything. So I don't want to give out too much, but let's have that conversation. Number one, so let's start from the definition of an agent, because it's easy to even mistake an agent. Like, who is an agent? Who is a broker? Like, what's the difference?
Do you want to take it? You want me to take it?
Okay, so I can start with an agent, like as a realtor as well. We call ourselves different things.
I kind of like the realtor. Kind of like it's cool, right? Because when people hear agents, you just kind of
might be a little bit defensive. Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, as realtors, we call ourselves different things. Well, by the bylaws, we call ourselves realtors. We call ourselves real estate agents. We call ourselves real estate salesperson as well, right? So that applies to people that trade in real estate, meaning you stand as a middle person, either representing a buyer or representing a seller, or in some cases both.
Yeah.
At the same time, right? So you stand as an intermediary between, or we can have me as an agent negotiating on behalf of a buyer client, and Joe as an agent also representing a seller client. Right. The other thing I like to differentiate as well, because there are a lot of agents as well. So it's not just about saying the word agent, because you can be an insurance agent, you can be a mortgage agent as well, right? And also broker. So who is a broker and who's an agent? Johnny, you can take that, right?
Yeah. I mean, depending on, is it broker in the real estate or broker?
Yes, in the real estate sense. Yes.
So a broker can also be a real estate agent.
Yes.
As well, right? But most time, what the broker is doing is working on the organization side, right? On the brokerage side, right? To ensure that all the deals, is following the guidelines.
Exactly.
Right? Documentations are right.
So they're basically managing
other agents to ensure that, you're doing the right things. I mean, they don't want you to make mistakes.
From a compliance perspective.
It could be very costly, when you get into a deal, and then you probably even just a foot, like, you'd be amazed at a comma, a full stop. Like, that's how detailed,
you can make,
an agent's work is, right? So you could make a lot of difference, because if you're dealing with numbers and transactions,
that's the difference between 1,000 and 1 million.
Yeah, so it's a whole lot of difference, and then you can easily get into misrepresentation based on, ignorantly, of fact that it was not like, it's not an issue of been deliberate, been intentional about committing that act, right? So the broker ensures that everything is done well, even up to the closing, who gets the money, how much has been gotten, when the money is being posted, and all those things. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
While a related agent is actually the one, it's like your foot soldier. It's actually the one taking you around, walking through you, looking at the markets, pulling up datas, for you to see what the market is saying. With regards to your real estate journey.
Awesome. I mean, I couldn't have put it anymore. We can
what do you expect now?
We can tell that you're.
I'm learning from my boss. I'm the best.
Don't flatter me. Okay, so let's go to the next. So why do people need agents? Why do people need agents? From your own perspective. So speak from because you've also, as opposed to being a realtor now, speak from the fact that you've also been a buyer, you've also been a seller of real estate. Why do you think you needed the agent that represented you?
I mean, for sure. So I think for me, the key thing or the key reason why you're an agent is, number one, is the market expertise and knowledge that they have. They understand the market pretty, very, particularly, for those that are farming in a particular area, right? They have an understanding of what that area is.
When you say farming,
like people that are covering a particular location, a particular city, or a particular municipality, or a region, as the case may be, right?
Yeah.
So, and a realtor does have an understanding of that market, understand...
Or should.
Thank you very much. Should have an understanding of what's happening in the market. Like things like, is it a buyer's market?
Right.
Is it a seller's market? Is it a balanced market? Now, you might want to wonder, what does that mean? They mean three different things, right? So, a realtor that knows what they're doing should be able to tell you and differentiate, because those market determines the bargaining power you have.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
At different times. So, so that's one thing you as a person, as a buyer or seller, you really might not know, what's going on, because we have access to data,
right?
Real market insights, like real time happenings. Like if I want to know what has sold in my area today, in the last 24 hours, I can put that data real time in just a few minutes. I can tell you, right? You wouldn't. I'm not saying you can't have access to that, but it might be very rigorous, right? And it might not be as accurate as what I might be giving to you.
True.
And in this market, you didn't need to work with data. You need to have the information to know what's happening, right? Because I have someone tell me, I bought a house last week for this amount of money. And my neighbor bought this house 6 months ago for a different amount of money. Same kind of house. Now, what has changed could just be the market.
Right.
And what can give information is the data to say, in the past 6 months, there's been a market shift.
This is what has happened.
This is what has happened, right? Maybe people are demanding for a particular kind of house, which is what would have given a reason or a rise to that kind of house going to that. So the one of the thing you need, because you need, in this world, we deal with data. Everything we do about our life, every business we do.
I was going to say that as well.
It's data driven. If you want to buy food, you don't think about how much it's going to cost. That is data.
To be armed with information.
If you go into No Frills, if you go into Food Co, any of those grocery stores, you're working with data, right? Because you need to look at your budget,
and those things inform your
decisions. They inform your decision of power to purchase or power to buy, right? So that's how powerful I think for me. Number one reason why I think you need a realtor to work with a professional realtor is that market knowledge and the insights that will be able to give to you.
Awesome, and I like to just tag on that point as well in terms of data, and then I think the thing. Buyers or sellers need to know as well, or investors while working in agents as well, is that although you as a buyer or a seller, you're thinking of based on the information you're seeing, even on this third-party websites that you have access to, like the Zolos and the house signals and things like that, or realtor.ca, you're thinking based on how it impacts you personally. Yeah. Like, so what does, like, this house sold, like you said, this house sold on my street for this amount, how does this impact my own property? But that's looking from, that's speaking in economic terms, so to speak, right? That's thinking from like a microeconomic standpoint. That has to do with you. But then the macros also impact you as well. Yeah. So the realtor also has that information in terms of a broader market view. So like you said, we can see, okay, what did the house sell for on ABC Street? We can see, okay, what did the house sell for in this particular ABC community? We can also see what does the house sell for in ABC region. Absolutely. And we can see what did the house sell for even Ontario-wide as well. Yeah. Because all those things play a factor as to what your own house sells for to an extent. Not directly, but indirectly, right? Also due to the fact that we're also armed with like inflation information. Yeah. Inflation, unemployment, interest rates. Oh my gosh. That's a big thing. We know what role that plays in terms of how the market reacts. And the impact of, just 1.5 basic points, what it could do in the market, what it could change. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So Yeah. So to your point, so market data and market information is the key thing. Number two, I think from my own perspective, why do you need an agent? I think from a buyer's perspective, I think it protects buyers.
Absolutely.
And protects sellers as well.
Yeah.
Now, looking from the outside, I'll take it from the buyer standpoint. People usually think, okay, so I want to buy a house. Again, the house can be a new construction house. And in fact, the impact of a real estate agent in buying a new construction house,
it's even very different.
House is different.
Completely
different. But
because a different negotiation.
Exactly. So
the framework, everything that happens around there.
It's a lot. So let's even just, for the sake of today's conversation, maybe we might, if we have time, we might dive into the new construction part. But let's even focus on just a house that is already built, like a resale. Property. So what value does a buyer's agents bring to a buyer buying a property? Number one, market data, market information.
Like you said.
Number two, access to the properties, because as buyers, as consumers, you're not allowed to go into properties because consumers don't have like the right insurance, right? You can, if we let you go into a property as a consumer, let's say you go in there, you live on like a gas stove, or you do something in there that can impactly adverse that property, and then let's say there's a fire incident or something. Now you're on the line for a property that you didn't intend on buying. We as agents,
and you don't want to get into that.
That's, in fact, let's not even go there at all. But anyways, we have what we call errors and omissions insurance. That kind of like protects us from having those kind of mishaps. So God forbid it ever comes to that, right? So we have that protection as well. Now, a third point I would like to bring into this is the emotional turmoil
of having to buy a
house. Tell me about that.
I mean, just the same way you get emotional with every other thing, right? You're buying a car, you're even buying a phone. You know, you're looking solely based on a lot of things. Like, I like it. I like the painting. I like the pot lights. It looks pretty. Everything is shining, bling, bling, right? Now, you get very emotional.
Yes.
And that's one side of it. It can also be scary for a buyer. Looking at how much you have to put down as down payment. So looking at the stress, looking at everything. It's like it's a beautiful, sharp transition in your life, right? From tenants to now buying a house, right? And it could come with a lot of stress.
A lump, because you're putting down, in some cases,
hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Depending on, you know, your power and what you are, how you've planned, you know, your purchase, right? So it can be very emotional for you. And then, you know, and it comes with some uncertainty. Even though, like I said, it comes with that part of excitement because you're happy, you've gone to see properties, and then you like them. You're already picturing yourself, already thinking of your, you know, how you could, particularly for, you know, people that are very heavy in the kitchen, right? They're already thinking about how to set up the kitchen, right? So it's very emotional. And then based on that, you might want to make a decision based on that emotion. Now, a realtor is not making a decision for you on emotion.
Absolutely not.
It's making a decision for you based on facts. Based on
facts and figures,
based on what they can see, what you can see, and based on knowledge.
Your emotions might also be there, but it's not like,
I mean, of course,
top priority.
I mean, you have to be emotional with your client, I mean, be excited for them, which is why you let them see what they're not seeing, right? But you are more practical.
Exactly.
You are more real. You're more logical. You're thinking about the do's, the don'ts. You're thinking about like more from, I want to say, I mean, you're thinking very from a logical perspective, even from a very responsible perspective, right? So for that reason, a realtor is going to be looking at the numbers. Like I said, you keep hearing us talking about numbers. In this business, it's a number game. That's what we're dealing with, right? So I'm looking at numbers. I'm looking at, you know, why should you go for this particular amount of money? I'm looking at the environment. I'm doing a lot of due diligence check to see if, you like it. It's beautiful for you.
That's nice.
And that's it. Good to have. However, I'm thinking about a whole lot more. You have things like material defects.
Right.
You have things around.
What does that mean for a buyer?
So that's a serious issue that the house might that you won't see.
Okay.
Right. So we have things like material defects. We have another one. I can't remember the terminology we use now. The one that you won't be able to, the one you can physically see with your eyes. You know, I can't remember right now.
Yeah, that's what we have the home inspectors.
There are about 3 of them, right? There's the one you can see,
right?
There's the one you can see, and there's the one that is grievous.
Yeah.
You know, that you also cannot see. Right?
But that the seller knew about.
But the seller knew about, right?
You
Material defect, and I can't remember the other ones, right? So those are the kind of things. So a realtor is like antennas are working, tentacles
Right.
are, and it's basically looking around.
Or looking
to
at the
see
risk factors
risk
in this
factors
house.
in this
Yeah. Is there
house
anything
beyond
like-
you just looking at the beauty, right? And it was, again, in some instances you might see some things as a buyer. Again, you get very sensitive to just very small things.
Right. And
Right,
then
and it's not an issue.
Exactly.
And the realtor is like, okay, you know what? It's not an issue, but if you want to get convinced, we could bring in an inspector, a third party,
Exactly.
to give you
Yeah.
that
You're managing-
comfort.
you're managing
so you're
emotions.
managing emotions, right? So there's
Awesome.
the joyful part of I don't mind. Like, oh, we can fix it, and there's a part of and I think I said that more with first time home buyers. First time home buyers are really very, very, like, it's a big deal for them.
It is.
right?
You're going through everything for the very first
So
time.
they're really looking, and again, based on probably what they've heard from friends that have bought,
Exactly.
so they're really very,
True.
they are coming with good for you if you're a realtor and you're working with a first time buyer who has had friends that have had bad experiences,
God.
right?
Yeah, it can
Trust
be
me,
interesting.
it's going to be very interesting. I don't want to say it the other way. It's going to be very because they are really coming based on stereotype, information, preconceived notion
notions
about a
that.
realtor, and they're making you feel like it's all about the money for you.
Right.
So you're managing, you're not being too pushy. You're also not relapsing. You're kind of like giving them the right information. You're not kind of, because again, we can be seen as being too pushy, even for the right reasons,
Right.
But your buyer could feel like, based on like the preconceived notion they've had, could feel like, oh, it's pushing me. So I think I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, you did.
To say, the emotion is on different side. There's a good side of the emotion of the excitement they get into, and they want to just go all in. Even with the price,
All right.
probably because they can afford it. They're like, it's okay, but you're like, I don't think this value is really fair. It could be ups or down, right? Depending on whichever way your buyers are flexing to. But you have a control to be able to give, because your job is to give the guidance
Absolutely.
to your buyers. Yeah.
Yeah, I really, really love that point that you just made, because the truth of the matter is, as a first time home buyer, like you said, especially for speaking to first time home buyers, they're doing this for the very first time, right?
Yeah.
We've done this a lot. so
You've grown gray hair, right?
So just, and that's not to sound like maybe pompous or anything, but it's we've put in the reps, right? We've put in the reps in terms of buying properties for clients, right? And so we've seen we've been in all sorts of situations with buyers and sellers as well. And so we can always advise you. And that's what I love about what we do, especially in our own practice, in terms of just offering that kind of like advisory role. Because you can't really force someone to like what they don't like.
Absolutely.
Number two, we definitely don't want to be disingenuous and say, oh, buy this when you know that it has like defects, like you mentioned, right? Even though we're not contractors or engineers or anything, but based on what we can at least see, if you see like a patch on the ceiling or a patch on the wall, then is there like a water leak issue? Like that's something you need to be checking out, right? Just to let your buyer know and just be completely transparent with your buyer as well, right? So we put in the reps, right? So we can definitely see red flags where we can. Where we can't, we might invite other experts to take a look at it.
That will call the third party
Exactly.
contractors.
So which brings me to I think this will be the third point now.
Yeah. Don't worry, don't count. Just go on.
So brings me to the next point, right? Which is that the ecosystem of people that support a transaction, which we've built based on the fact that we've been doing this for a while. So I'm speaking to the fact that we have relationships with real estate lawyers. Even though as a buyer, you might have a lawyer that you know personally,
which is fine,
or somebody else has used before. It's not always fine.
No, I'm saying that it's fine. Like, I mean, we're not going to tell you not to use them.
No, you can. You have
to just give you look at the information and be able to tell you, what it is.
The reason why I said it's not fine, I'll explain. Not because we don't want you to have your own decision, but I see a real estate agent, and I tell you this all the time. Me and Bola have this conversation about a real estate agent is sort of like a quarterback. Especially if you're a buyer's agent, for those that understand the football analogy, right? A quarterback, right? Yeah, you have the ball and you have to pass it. Let's assume that you as clients, you're like the ball that we're holding. We're taking care of you, just very precious, because we haven't done this before, right? And we have to pass you on to the next person. The next person can be a mortgage agent. We have to ensure that person we're passing you on to, you're in the right hands. I have had a mortgage agent where we had put in an offer on the property. We were about to close, and then 2 days, 3 days before closing, he's ghosting us. We can't find this mortgage agent because my buyer heard that a friend used this particular mortgage agent, and then so they trusted that mortgage agent as well. And then 2 days, 3 days before closing, we couldn't find the mortgage agent. We're like, We need the
Wow. I mean, it's not funny.
Yeah, it's funny now, but at the time it was not funny because you can imagine what that buyer was going through at that point in time. Because think about it, when you make an offer, you put down like what we call an earnest money deposit, just a deposit, just to show a sign of good faith, right? I think that was about maybe 20 or 25,000 or something like that. And then this guy said he said he had, and we had been following up with him, right? He said he had the approval already ready to go, but then we couldn't hear from him. So he basically ghosted us.
Wow.
Luckily for us, like I said, we have that relationship because we've done this before with lawyers. So I spoke to the lawyer. This is what's happening. The real estate lawyer now gave us another mortgage agent at that point in time, and that person literally got an approval for us in just 2 to 3 days.
So more like, I mean, we have the code to the ones that can turn things around,
exactly.
Right? Because there are times when transactions are really very, very like. They get really very, very
can get dicey,
and then you need someone that can a broker that can close the deal.
Yes,
quickly. Maybe one turns you down.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that makes sense. That access to those
network of people, be it a real estate
trusted
lawyer,
trusted people. I mean, that can get things done for you legally. Without very, very putting important. You into any discomfort,
dicey situations or sketchy situations. So so that's why I say. So that's why we may have brokers that we worked with, that trusted partners, that we can say, okay, these are our trusted partners that we can we call it our concierge service.
Absolutely.
That we can send you to, speak to this person, and they've done this before. And
you could also see their track records, right? You could give it, I mean, when you could check their LinkedIn, their Instagram, their reviews on Google, you see that, they have great ratings of what they've done, yeah.
So that'll be my next point for that, the network that we have.
And to follow through on this network, I figure that people always believe that every lawyer can do a real estate transaction. No, not every lawyer can undo a real estate transaction, because there are a few things that if you've never done it as a lawyer, yes, you understand the legal framework, the legality around buying a property or even contracts in general, it's a contract, right? But when it comes to the interest of doing things like due diligence, like checking for if there's a lien on the house, I mean, again, there's a familiarity that it comes with, the system. Right. To close the deal, they know when the money is going to come from. They know how to do the plus and minus of, what you've paid down, all those things. So I think not every lawyer, can, just like same way we have specialties in law. We have criminal lawyers, civil lawyers.
Beautiful points.
So like different lawyers also have their specialties.
Real estate lawyers.
Yeah. They can speak the language, and commercial lawyers as well. Yes. Who are in that real estate area for commercial. So the same way, even in real estate, there's also different disciplines.
I was gonna say that after you that.
Not everyone does commercial transaction because of how intricate it could be, right? So
not everybody does residential too. Yeah, people focus on industrial.
And some don't even like selling because of the whole staging, thing and all that. Some just buyers, agents and some don't even like doing rental. They kind of feel like So you can see how beautiful. The discipline is. It's so multifaceted. So vast. You can belong to different areas. Yeah. I think another point that jumps to me is the negotiation.
That's the part I love.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part.
Yeah. I mean, and that comes from the fact that we're dealing with data.
Yes.
Right? So it's not like I'm just a salesperson. I just have sweet tongue. I know how to just talk. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to know where the information are, what information you want to have access to, and how you want to use the information to drive a negotiation.
I love them. You're good.
Look at this guy. This guy is teasing me.
I'm not gassing you up.
Thank you.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole lot, because when it comes to buying a property, we do a whole lot of in and out.
Yes.
Right? So which is why I gave the analogy earlier on that your neighbor sold a property 6 months ago or bought a property 6 months ago, and you are buying and you're kind of looking like, oh, mine is more expensive. Right? Now, if all things were done well, right? Yes, that can happen. As a matter of fact, most time it will happen.
Right.
Because your neighbor, you might be your neighbor, but your house might not be in the same condition.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
It might look like they look alike on the outside, but on the inside, there are always different things that determine the value of a house. And I'll give a very good one. One of the biggest things that clients look out for in a property is, I think I've seen two major things. Number one is the kitchen.
Huge.
How updated it is, because that's a lot of money. Actually, to turn the kitchen around to it costs a lot of money to get the countertop.
Because there are a bunch of appliances.
There are a bunch of appliances, right? So you don't know how updated your neighbor appliances are versus yours.
But the materials.
The material that were used. They could all look like countertop,
marble,
but they have different names. They have different grades and qualities, right? So that again can influence it. Number two is the washroom.
Huge.
Right? It also matters. It makes a big difference. To fix a washroom can cost almost like 15,000-20,000.
Right.
Depending on the kind of how big it is, the kind of things you want to put in there, the
But
quality.
that's a luxury washroom though, like 20,000.
Now, yeah, I mean, if it's a very big one with double zinc, the bath.
They are first time home buyers. Anyways, it depends on what you guys want.
Yeah, so again, I mean,
you can get pricey that way.
You could get very pricey based on those things. Again, basements. Some are finished basement. Even to the level of how finished it is. Some are finished to the level of being used for rental.
That's
right?
That.
Ready.
Everybody wants a
rental property, right? Exactly.
It's funny how every time you meet a first time home buyer, the first thing they say is, "Oh, I would love a house with a separate entrance."
Because it's numbers. They're thinking about, you know what?
Yeah.
I want to be able to see how to offset this basement with my current, how much I'm paying for my mortgage, right? And they also want the inconvenience. I don't want, someone is renting. It's good to have, but I don't want them to, I want to separate.
Gotcha.
So this kind of thing makes a lot of difference. Now, another good thing could be the timing, the market, the time of the market when your neighbor bought and when you're buying, when your neighbor sold and when you're selling, right? For you, just 6 months ago.
I have a question to ask before you move on to another point. I just want you to, I don't think there's a wrong or right answer, but I just want your take on this. What would you say is more important? The property you are selling or trying to buy, or the market you are in at the time of the sale or the purchase?
Come again.
So what would, in your own opinion, what would you say is more important, quote unquote? The property you are selling or trying to buy.
Selling or trying to buy.
That's the property itself, like the actual physical property
that I'm selling.
That you're selling or trying to buy for a client. Or the market in which you are trying to buy or sell for a client. Like what takes it higher priority in your own professional opinion?
I think it's property for me.
Okay.
Because it's real estate, right? It's always catch up. So let's say, for example, it's a buyer's market.
Right.
Out of my knowledge, I thought it's a seller's market, which could influence, meaning that. So let's say it's a seller's market.
Right.
Right. And I thought it's a buyer's market.
Okay.
Right. So which means I bought the property very high.
Yeah, because it was a seller's market.
Because it was seller's market.
Okay.
And then 6 months down the line, market dynamics changes. It becomes a seller's market. For that reason, I could
because a buyer's market.
It becomes a buyer's market, right? For that reason, I feel like I have a upper power to negotiate further. But the reality is, whatever difference it is that you probably would have bought higher for, over time, it's going to catch up.
Right.
Right? So you won't, right now it may look like a lot, right? Which is why it's real estate. It's not a biscuit you want to buy and eat right now.
Right.
Right? You want to keep it for a while, let it grow, equity,
time in the
market, right? We'll take care of all of those, we'll close the gap, right? So I think for me, I'll consider the property, how updated it is.
Right.
Right? How much am I going to spend to move things around? Am I still having to fix up the kitchen, the washroom, the basement? Like, what's it going to be given to me in terms of is it finished basement? Is it going to give me additional income? All of those things. I'm more concerned about that, right? Because even if I miss out on the buyer's market, right? The reality is it's a cycle, right? I will always catch up with it. As against, if I'm focusing so much on that and I'm buying a property, it's going to cost me much more money, right? To fix up, to get to to bring it up to the level of a good quality of quality of homes. I think for me that would be my take. What do you think?
For me, it's, to be honest, I think it's both. It's both the property.
But why did you put me on? You didn't tell me that I have option of saying both now.
So that's why I said.
You said I to choose one. I chose one.
Yeah, I want to hear your take on it because I asked that question because you hear this a lot from buyers that is this? You always hear this question.
Is it a good time to buy?
Exactly. Maybe one day we'll touch on that subject about is this a right time to buy?
No, you don't want to miss out on any of our episodes, right? So if you've missed out on, we've said a lot, and I think no matter how it is, we've been able to give at least one information or two to someone out there, looking out for it. So I'm going to recommend for you, check out our other episode. Just sit down, get glued to it, so you can go on.
Awesome. Okay, so I think it's both. I don't want to touch on that. I don't want to miss the focus of the point of this conversation. Let's go back to
negotiation.
Negotiation and what a real estate agent does, right? And this, for me, I said that this is my favorite part because it speaks to a little bit of the managing emotions like you mentioned before, because people don't realize we're dealing with, for instance, if I'm negotiating with Joe on the other side, you're trying to represent your clients to the best of your interest, and another agent is trying to represent their clients to the best of their interest. So it's almost like while loggerheads are like, okay, you're trying to get the best deal for your seller, I'm trying to get the best deal for the buyer as well. And so, like you said, you have to be armed with information. And using that, you kind of like go back and forth. Just go to your client. Okay, what is the maximum amount you're willing to? You're pre-approved for. We spoke about this in the verified, I believe.
On the first episode.
On other episode. So check that out as well. Just like he said.
On the pre-approval.
Pre-approval, right? What amount are you? What is that amount? And then we can use that information. We don't tell that information to the other agent, but at least we can negotiate and do that for you. So why do you need an agent to that? You can do that yourself.
Absolutely.
But the question is, again, it goes down to, are you armed with the information you need? And even though you have the information, is your information relevant or timely at that point in time for you to be able to negotiate accurately for yourself, right? And also, again, it goes back to, we have the reps. We've done this countless number of times. So we know what buttons to push. We know where the leverage is, and we can have that conversation with the agent on the other side. So,
and of course, I mean, the reality is the fact that when I say a property, right, I look at it and look at what the market is selling for, right? The other agent is not going anywhere else. We are looking at the same data.
Yep.
Right. So I can literally tell you where it's going to land. Except the person is not being honest to you and trying to inflate things more than what it is, right? If it's a buyer's market, I can tell you that, based on, being a buyer's market, this property sold for this amount of money, we could wiggle our way around, right? So if someone is trying to like make you feel like, oh, it's a good property, I can likely tell you, like, this is, again, we give range, right? It's not like we tell you it has to be 700. It has to be 800. We work to tell you that it could go either ways.
Right.
Because, someone could want $5,000 more.
Right.
It could want $10,000 more. I know for sure that really wouldn't matter much for you in the long term, right? So if you're buying a property $5,000 more because you like it and because the person is insisting on that, right? We could talk about it and say, like, you know what, I think, and then we can speak to the future of property for you to tell you that, you know what, $5,000, $10,000 more really wouldn't make any much difference on your mortgage.
In comparison to how much you'd be making.
How much is going to make it from it on the long run, right? So these are kind of things, which is why I said that, like, we can always tell you where it's going to land,
right?
Within a range. Not like we're going to give you an exact, because again, interest could change. The seller could be more interested.
Right.
They could have more buyers who are willing to
pay much more than you're willing to pay.
Put in more, that kind of. So we could always get that alignment. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah. Do you have any points?
So the next point I'd like to touch on is, aside from the negotiation, I think one key part that I think buyer's agents, I'm also going to touch on the seller's agent as well, right? But as a buyer's agent as well, right, is being able to just put yourself in the buyer's shoes.
Absolutely.
For us, that word, I guess, would be empathy.
Empathy.
From our own end as well, right? Like you said, buyers usually might be very, very emotional about the purchase of the transaction, but we as agents were able to take away that emotion and use understanding where the buyer is coming from.
Business sense.
Yes. And also using that bit of logic as well to say, okay, this is, using that professional advice to say, okay, this is what we feel is a valuable, this is the range we feel this property should sell for. So the point I'm trying to make basically is that analysis. So there's negotiation and there's also the analysis of that, the market analysis of that. Like you said, the average person doesn't know what the buyer's market is.
No.
The average person doesn't know what the seller's market is.
How do you even determine, what are the variables that determine what's a buyer market, what a seller, what a balance market is?
And just to be clear, this isn't what a particular website is saying as the value. Because
we are looking at information and looking at what has sold.
Exactly.
The frequency, how long it was on the market for.
Exactly.
So like I said, it's quite a lot of variables.
Yeah.
And I can bet you need a realtor in your corner.
You do.
You do. Beyond just thinking, like for you, just think buying a house is just going for the showing,
looking at it,
looking at the house,
putting a number on it, and then moving in.
There's a way more. Yeah.
So I'll talk about the analysis. So that's the analysis part of things. Like you said, an agent should be an expert in a particular area, and based on that, they should know, okay, in this particular area or neighborhood, for instance, property values have grown in this place by like maybe an average of 6% every year. 6% every year. So what should be the exit strategy? Because most people don't think of that.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
And that goes to the
Exit
analysis as well.
strategy.
So, like as with every investment, I know we don't like calling our properties like investments, but at the end of the day, you put some money in and you're expecting something out in the future. So I think as buyers, as agents, you as a buyer, you're just thinking, okay, this is what the house is worth. I like this house. It looks lovely. It looks beautiful. We're thinking as agents, what is the exit strategy? If I'm to sell this house 5 years, 8 years, 2 years or 3 years down the line, how do what would that look like? Even from the day of purchase, already thinking about that.
So you don't overbuy.
Exactly. So that's why that number, unless of course you feel very passionately about the property, because in some instances, for instance, I know you told me about a client one time that wanted his school in a particular neighborhood in Mississauga.
Yeah. It was a key consideration. And again, we're going to touch on that in terms of the entire walkthrough of interest, right? Maybe if we ever get there, about I think we touched on that already. Kind of things that you could look out for. I think in the first episode.
Oh yeah, we touched
around
on
how people make decisions. Yeah,
exactly.
So go on.
So yeah, because except you really, really have to be in that neighborhood because of work, because of the school.
Like, what's a grandma looking for in a school environment?
Or being close, exactly.
You know,
you never tell.
I mean,
or what's important to you, your family at that point,
at that particular time
as well. So I think that analysis is very, very key. And then we have our checklists that we go through in terms of doing that analysis. So that's my point I would make. So after the negotiation, then the actual analysis of the market.
And just thinking of it now, I can remember back to the negotiation, because this is like the hallmark of, everything we do, because we want you to have the best value for your property, right? We don't want you to get a property that we know that if you're moving, you're going to have to spend much money to update it, right? How can we offset those money from the current price if we feel that it's overpriced than the actual market value, right? So I'll just talk about that. I remember my client I was going to lease, right? And very interesting. It was a condominium, still under construction, done already, just a few things, no concert service yet, there's no carpet yet, still a little bit of dusty here and there.
Oh, wow, okay.
Now, for me, that's a good reason to lease for a lower price. Because the key amenities are not yet available. The gym is not available yet. The concert is not available yet. Carpets are not yet rolled on the hallways.
Someone listening to this probably thinking, so why is the person moving in here?
Yeah, but the person is saying that this property is brand new, right? Meets all my requirements in terms of the location, proximity to my office, to friends, to family.
Right.
And for sure, definitely those things are going to be fixed.
They have to be.
Right? They have to be fixed, right? Because there's a possession date, right? So the real owners have to take possession on a particular date, right? Because the realtor, the developer needs to get their money, right? From the bank or wherever it's being financed from, right? So they have to comply to the closing time that has been given, right? So I could see that to be like, you know what? Due to this amenity that's not available, even though I checked and I figured out that some properties sold, leased in that same building for a higher price.
Right.
But I'm saying no. With this information, so I called and asked them, I said, when do you think this is not going to be ready? They're like, we really can't tell. So
they never give you a
good
date.
for you. The fact that you can't even give me a date makes it a good point for me, right? So I was able to go with that tool to negotiate, and we got the property for like $200 lesser.
Oh, awesome.
Than the listed price. And it's a beautiful property. This is a beautiful thing. Yesterday, my client sent me the picture of the carpet.
Everything done.
Now, that property right now is leased. It's going for like as high as $3,000.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'm telling you for free.
Wow.
And I remember, I'm sure she can be listening to me right now. She could validate this in the comments if she's listening.
Right.
We did say this, like, I think this property is going to go higher than this actual amount.
Because you could see the potential,
I can see the
value
potential.
in it.
It's new.
Yeah.
High roof, elevated, like the...
But again, that speaks to your market knowledge, because you had seen properties in that neighborhood. You had been going on showing, so you could tell based on the value you were seeing that had the potential to be of a higher value.
Even,
so getting in at that price was a steal.
I even told her, I said, you know what, probably, I'm thinking maybe you should buy this property. Because of the location, because of it's new, everything is fixed up, things are still on the way, and I'm like... Maybe you should buy this property. And she was like, I'm actually thinking about it.
Oh, nice.
Right. So the beauty of it is the fact that you're able to bring knowledge to your clients.
Right.
Right. You're able to negotiate for them. If it was like probably saw a rental party on Facebook, right? You probably won't even know. You won't know why you should be negotiating, for a lower price.
You just go with at face value.
The face value. And again, in worst case scenario, you probably just look at other ones that are listed in that property, and you'll be like, okay, I think other one lists for this amount. Therefore, I think I'm on the right spot, right? But I'm looking way more than that I'm looking at the inconvenience that is currently on the property, and I could use that as a negotiation tool. So yeah, so it's all about negotiation.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So what else does a buyer agent bring to the table?
Think about time and stress management. Right? So a good example is I could easily go to property and I know your requirement as a buyer. I know what you're looking for. Even though you've seen property on pictures, video, you like it. I don't have to stress you to come and see it. I could just take a 5-10 minutes to the property, book a showing, and be very, very sure that actually meet your requirements.
Yeah, before you stress yourself.
Look at how much it's going to cost you for utility, right? I already know how much you don't want to go beyond in terms of your total expenses, both on mortgage, on tax. So how I'm able to sit down, look at the property, look at property tax, look at what's in property already, right? I'm able to look at how much if it's a resale, how much the landlord, the seller is saying they pay for utility averagely,
and things like
that. Things they are renting, and I'm able to look at them and be like, you know what, I think it's going to be out of your budget, right? Then I'm giving you that option beforehand to say
you don't bother falling
in love with
the
it,
property,
right? Because again, as I said, the stress management can be very stressful. You haven't seen the property, then you want to force yourself to buy it.
Yeah.
Now, but we don't want you to force yourself.
Right.
If you have a budget, we want to make sure that you stick to it as best as possible.
Absolutely.
Except if you have to. But again, we have to make sure that it's not going beyond, a particular percent. I think this thing we do for mortgage, what's it called? Where we check how much your revenue is and how much you're spending, and based on that, the bank can determine.
Oh yeah, I talk of the stress test, or
the stress test and the
GDS,
TDS to know how much how much it was for you.
GDS means your gross debt.
GDS, your
gross debt service ratio,
and your
total debt,
so how much you are spending versus how much is coming in for you. If we bring in a mortgage broker, they'll be able to touch
on that.
That would be a very
basically
good
for the layman, or for the just basically knowing, okay, how much is your income as a person and what are your liabilities in comparison to the liabilities that are on the property.
And the bank has
they look at everything.
They have a particular range they're working with. That if it's more than this, they won't approve, because again, they're thinking for you and helping you not to be in a position where your house will be repossessed.
Exactly.
Right. So but again, that's a different discipline or school on its own
in
terms of mortgaging.
Part of things, in terms of
so I was talking about the stress, right, and the time management. I'm already saving you time from driving all the way from wherever you're coming, to come to the property, and then saving the stress of getting emotionally attached to a property that I know that, is way out of your budget.
Yep.
Right? And you don't want, again, some might push you to do a cold sell, but we wanted to buy it and be very excited.
Yes.
It's a house you're going to live in. I want you to wake up every day loving the entire moment, loving the journey,
in that house,
and being grateful for what God has given to you. So yeah, that's another, I think a very good habit that a realtor offers you is to help you run some maths, and take you off stress and manage your time.
Yeah. One of the things I really, really love about this profession.
Oh my God, don't take it out of me. Go ahead.
So one of the things I love about this profession is it's so multifaceted, in the sense that, let's look at how many things we've touched on already. So as a real estate agent, like you rightly mentioned, you are showing properties. You are also negotiating as well. You are also analyzing a lot of things, looking at numbers as well. Also, you're writing contracts. So now this goes to the next one I was trying to make, in terms of, you mentioned initially about how just one comma or one full stop can make a difference. Be a very, very huge, can make a very huge difference, right? And I don't think we touch on enough the fact that as agents, we're writing legally binding contracts for 6-figure assets. Legally binding contracts for 6-figure assets.
That's the minimum. There's no assets that will be less than that. In Ontario.
True. So I'm saying $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 properties, right? $1 million, 1.2, 1.5, 1.6, right? We're writing contracts, we're putting clauses, and those clauses are legally binding, because if something is missing or something goes amiss somewhere, these documents are taken to the court to say this is what my agent wrote for me. So that's a huge responsibility to carry on behalf of somebody. So I love the fact that we're negotiating, we're analyzing, we're buying, we're thinking long term. We're also servicing clients. And that joy, me and you have this conversation every time about that joy of someone over the phone when you let them know that congratulations, offer accepted, and everything. It's just being able to play a part of that family's journey. Again, your real estate journey, no pun intended. Play a part of that family's journey of you get a house for someone as just an individual, and then one day, God willing, they get married and they have kids in that property as well, and they're thinking, oh, Joe, I want to scale up to a bigger property. So you're with them all through the journey. All through the journey. You're seeing that family grow and stuff like that. And then most times they're having a barbecue, they call you, I'm doing a barbecue in my house. And
that's because you've done a good job.
Well,
if you've done a bad job, they're never going to invite you to their barbecue. As a matter of fact, if you did a great job and they're excited,
well, true.
Trust me, you're going to get a barbecue.
Yeah,
right? Barbecue call, you get referrals.
Yeah.
I think maybe we should do like an open day.
Mm-hmm.
Like a demo of what a transaction looks like for people, like physical, like getting anyone that wants to come, just come in. We just try to create something and show you the kind of work that goes into, like, I'm just thinking about what it takes to do a CMA.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what's a CMA? So,
comparative market analysis, which is what we were talking about, comparing properties for like apples for apples, right? And then having to look at costing of how much it's going to cost to do a basement. Then making those phone calls, calling the contractor, ask the contractor that, I want to do what's the cost of estimation, looking at, okay, this one is this bathroom is updated, this is not updated, and trying to like figure out, how to get it there, even with your clients, even though you're not a professional, but because you're part of the journey with them, they could ask you to say, oh, what do you think, we can do this.
I had a client ask me once about the house we were trying to get for them didn't have central air conditioning, right? So it had a furnace, but it didn't have like the AC. So, and they asked, I said, okay, what would it cost me to get like air conditioning installed in this house? Again, touches to the fact that we had that network.
Third party.
I called this person. I called another person. They gave us two different quotes. So this is how much.
And they can make it.
They're like, okay, you know what? Yeah, we don't mind moving in here. We'll get the air conditioning installed ourselves, and then that will ultimately increase the value of the property.
Now, can you see how powerful? Can you see how powerful you being able to make that phone call?
Oh, that's huge.
With that person, as against when you're like, I don't know.
How does that bring value to you? That doesn't help anybody.
Like, from number one, that's not very unprofessional. Right?
or you don't know is okay as long as you're
giving a solution, a plan to help exactly. Yeah. But you're like, you can't just I don't know. Right there and there, they're trying to look at the pros and cons.
Exactly.
Trying to run numbers to say, okay, you know what? If you buy for this amount and we have to upgrade it to this, like what's it going to look like?
Exactly.
Like, to make a decision. So these are the kind of very personal, information you want to help and give to your client, which is very exciting.
Yeah, I love it.
And for me, it's very emotional when I see people, buy a property that they love. They like it. They're very excited about it. But there's the other flip side to it that I've also noticed. People, when they go for showings, they see all the furnitures. They like it, the way it looks.
And then when everything comes out,
it looks like,
and they move, you're like, is this what I bought?
Is this what I bought?
It's
right?
Called buyer's remorse. There's a word for that. I don't know why. Yeah, that's actually true.
They kind of mirror, like, they're looking at the house and their interest is drawn to everything they can see.
Right.
Now, you as a realtor should be able to let them know that let's look beyond what we can see. And just imagine these chairs are not there. But again, it's good to see so you can begin to picture yourself, picture how you want to put this here. Probably you have those things already. I'm trying to imagine how they fit. I've had people didn't buy property because what they had in terms of their furnitures wasn't going to fit into, and they were not ready to let go of it.
Yeah,
right.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
that's very good.
And
point.
Again, there's always ways of telling them, okay, you know what? Let's look at the numbers, right? If you're to sell this, like, which is better for you? How much does property? How much does this furniture worth? How much does property does it worth for you? How much of interest do you have on this property? How much do you think it meets your needs beyond? From a size perspective, like the square footage, numbers of rooms, as against the furniture. How much are you going to get the furniture? 1,500, 20.
Yeah, but again, people, if you like your furniture, you like your furniture.
Yeah, but you can always help them.
We can help them make that
decision.
The opportunity cost
as a realtor,
couch to buying a property.
You can't make decision for your client.
Sure.
You only give them options.
Yeah.
But the ability to run numbers, play with data, shows your level of competency.
Right, absolutely.
Right? And shows the value you want to bring to this transaction. Right? Which I think for me, it's really very huge.
Huge.
Yeah, it's not just about speaking English. You must speak numbers.
Speak numbers.
You
I love
know,
that.
speak
I love
numbers.
that. We should make merch saying
And
don't just speak English.
speak numbers. Oh my God. Okay, we'll look at the record and
Yeah,
I'll
we
write
need
it.
to figure that out.
And guess what? Thinking about it, I never used to like numbers.
Oh,
Back
really?
in high school, I dreaded maths. As a matter of fact, it was one course or subject at that time that was it gives me high blood pressure. It gives me high blood pressure.
I said high blood
Like,
pressure.
whenever I think of maths, once it's maths time, like, I'm always kind of very scared. English, government, history, commerce, economics. I mean,
You love that.
it's pretty very fine. But when it comes to maths, and maybe it was where it was taught,
It could also be that. It could also
right?
be
Kind
that.
of make you like it's such a very big deal, right? But as I went along in my career, I figured out that to make decisions, like, you need to play with numbers.
Numbers are key.
Yeah, you need
Numbers
to
are
love
key.
numbers. And even in my career, I've seen that if you want to make those real impacts in your business, they want to say those numbers. You're not just speaking English. You're speaking with data. And like we always say, numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie.
Maybe another t-shirt. Since you want to be making t-shirt now.
Making merch, right? Hey, it depends, guys. Will you buy the merch?
We
If you
buy the merch.
we'll
Numbers
make
don't
the
lie. YRJ Pod. Numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie.
You know.
Oh, don't
So for
speak
me,
English, speak numbers.
I had to brace up. You know,
Right.
got my hands on a few things, and it's still a walk in the path. You know, still learning. You know, how to run data, how to run numbers. But I think with real estate, with HR, it's like you just can't run away from numbers. Yeah, if you don't want to make the right decisions, and even in your family, like your little budgeting,
Your family budget as well.
it's
Still
numbers. Even when you get your salary, you're looking at your T4, right? Everything you're saying is numbers.
taxes,
Taxes. So
Sure.
I think we're in a world where we really just either directly or indirectly, you're actually dealing with numbers every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you want to gas your car, whatever amount it is, that's something you're going to
Numbers
see
as
it on your
well.
credit card, right?
True.
So yeah.
So I want us to maybe I don't think we can cover all the things that a real estate agent
I don't think we can.
But we can briefly touch on the benefit, because I think this is where also buyers don't really see the need, because I came across a statistic that said I believe it was 32% of buyers buy new construction properties without a real estate agent. And I thought, I was like, this is interesting. Why not?
I mean, I think this is going to be good for our next episode, because
Okay.
that's a whole, long conversation.
And we've not even touched on the value of a seller's agent, like selling a property for you, right?
Yeah.
But I guess that's.
But maybe you could just touch on it, summarily.
Oh, are you speaking of the new construction
Yeah,
one? Or?
yeah. No, the one you spoke about the buyers going through
Or
without
going
an agent directly to the buyers,
to the builders.
to the builders, rather.
To the builders, yeah. So I mean, the first thing is, number one, if you go directly to the builder, there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can just walk into a showroom, and those showrooms, they are usually beautiful.
Beautiful.
Or the model homes, oh my God. As soon as you step in, I actually rate builders. I love what they do in terms of
Shout out to builders. We're very
the different builders
Yeah.
who know what they're doing, right? The way they package those rooms, the showrooms are actually beautiful. So, but the thing is, you have to think of it this way, right? Also, it goes to the point about what you said about removing the emotions from it. Because once you go into a showroom, you see what they have there, and then you automatically
so much of light,
assume-
spotlight is
Spotlight.
there, colors. Oh my God.
Yeah, and the furniture that they put in there as well. You have to remember that this is what they literally crafted this environment
To sell.
to make you love it and to make it sell, right? Well, you have to read beneath the lines, right? And that's why you need an agent on your side, for the most part, because an agent looks beyond all of the glitz and glamour and then goes down to the nitty gritty to say, okay, what does this come? Number one, does this come with my property? Most likely not, because builders will sell things for you at a particular. Let's just say they have a base level model, and then some things that come on top of that would always be upgrades.
Yeah.
Then again, it varies in terms of who the builder is, right? Ceiling heights, the things that buyers don't really think about, like how high your ceiling
Yeah,
is.
9 feet. I mean,
8 feet,
it's
9
like the
feet.
new thing right now. I saw a
Right.
property, some weeks back. Oh my God.
And 9 feet ceilings are
Very,
big,
very
right?
beautiful.
Exactly. So now, so there's that as well. Then what are the terms and conditions? What does the deposit structure look like?
Is it convenient for you? Is it going
Right.
to work for you? Yeah.
You need to know that as well. Thirdly, you actually working with a buyer's agent, either buying a property that's already built or a new construction property. In both instances, as of now in Canada, you as a buyer are not paying the agent out of pocket. So it doesn't really cost the buyer anything, so to speak, in terms of using an agent to go to
ensure that everything makes sense, to tidy
everything.
things, honestly.
Right. It's like, why, if you have that to your if you can use or draw on that expertise, why not?
Just like a free,
why not use it?
It's like a free service, a free detailed professional service that you're not paying for.
Exactly.
It's to your advantage.
You don't lose anything.
You don't lose anything, but you could lose something for not using them.
You could.
Yeah.
And the reason why I bring up this point is because, I mean, if you go back to 2023, 2022, 2023, the number of phone calls I got from people saying, oh, NASA, I have a friend or someone that bought a property from a builder. Okay. Now the appraisal amount is
higher than lower than the value at that time.
Purchase price. What can they do? It wasn't one phone call. It wasn't two phone calls. It wasn't three, which is already too much because people were losing deposits of like 60 grand, 80 grand. Some builders, to their credit, try to walk buyers through that whole situation. But I feel like some things could have been easily avoided if they had the right counsel on their side to say, okay, you know what, you're buying this. Is there like an assignment clause on this?
So what's an assignment clause? Just for for those who don't understand what that means.
So if you're buying a new construction property, you have to remember that the building is not yet built. So all you have is basically paperwork. You have
house on paper.
House on paper. You have paperwork to say you entered an agreement to buy a house for, let's say, 800,000. That will be finished in 2027, right? 800,000. Now, again, it speaks to exit strategy, like I spoke about, that the number one goal should always be, you are willing to close on this property that you bought for 800,000. Like, don't focus. Let the assignment, which I'll explain what that means in a second. Let the assignment not be the goal to say, oh, if I don't have the income to close on this property, then I'll transfer it. So that's what the assignment means. It means that you can transfer this agreement that you bought to somebody else, and that person can then close on the property. But then you need to have multiple exit strategies. The first,
what if that doesn't work? What if it's not on the property? It's not allowed.
Exactly. So, I mean, you should know firstly if it's allowed to, if you can assign or not from even when you're entering the transaction.
Yeah, but which is why you need an agent to be able to help you look at that.
Yeah,
because for a buyer, I mean, all you're thinking is I want to buy.
Yes.
And you're assuming that you will close.
And anything can happen.
True. Right? True. And then you never even thought about it.
Yeah.
To say, can I assign? And I think I shared someone with you that also reached out, and I think he wasn't able to make the down payment any longer. Right. And then he wanted to sell. But unfortunately,
couldn't work.
There's no assignments.
Oh gosh.
It's still an ongoing conversation.
And you shouldn't, and it was very, very hurtful because I was like, you shouldn't be in Canada Canada's a great country. It's amazing.
It's the best country in the world.
Country in the world. But at the same time, no one should be losing like 50, 60,000. No,
even 10,000. There's no amount of money you should even lose because you pretty much worked for it, right?
Like that's like someone's annual salary.
Yeah.
Like just losing that over something that is avoidable. I don't like things that I wish I could have avoided, and maybe that's why it bothers me a lot. I don't like.
At least it's even coming at no cost.
Yes,
which is why we say that. For a buyer, you're like on a very good spot.
Right.
Because our service is pretty much free to you. You know what I mean?
Why not?
Why not if not? I would do that a million and one time.
But again, they can also make the argument that they did buy it with a realtor and they still got into that.
Yeah.
That buying and that situation.
And which is why we're saying, for us, one of our key values is empathy.
True.
Like I think on our first episode, I said this very, I will not overemphasize this, is the fact that one thing for sure is we're going to make money.
100%.
That's the reward of labor.
Exactly.
Right? Even in the Bible, right? It said the laborer is deserving of his wages.
Absolutely.
So we're definitely going to make our money. Yes. However, my interest looks beyond making my money. Because either way, if I offer the best service to you, I'm going to make my money.
And you tell your friends.
And you tell a friend. Exactly. If I offer a not too good service, I will still make my money, but it's a one-off money.
Yeah.
Right? So we think more about the reputation. And we think more about you. Because, I know what it feels to pay a mortgage.
It's a lot.
I know what it feels to live in a house like like, I mean, I don't know, but I have an understanding of what it feels to live in a house that you don't really like. I know what it feels to buy a house for a particular amount of money, and you believe that you should have gotten that house for a lesser amount with all facts and figures, being equal.
Or you feel like, or you can see that you clearly
You can see that they overpaid for it, right? That's not the
yeah.
kind of position I want any
Anyone
of my
to be
clients to be. It's not a good position, right? So which is why, I mean, like I said, beyond just the money is we want to craft a personalized approach, look at your situation, and you can be rest assured that it's all to your advantage.
Yeah.
Either you're a buyer, you're a seller, you're an investor, I can guarantee you by the grace of God, with our strategy, with our model, it's all going to be to your best advantage.
And and that's the beauty of this podcast that we have right now. So I'm hoping people, share this conversation with friends, family, and just at least if you haven't learned one thing today, you've learned what an assignment clause is.
Absolutely.
And,
And how important it is.
You know to look out for that in the next, if you still decide to go without an agent, at least you know to look out for that.
You can always come back and use it for your transaction.
Exactly.
Take notes. And I think one other thing that came to my mind that I also figured out is, when you buy a property and there's always, generally, there's always zoning changes, regulatory changes,
right.
Bylaw amendment to so many things, right? And sometimes these things are always, you will see that it's been mentioned. So, for example, if a particular area, there's going to be a development that is different from what people have known, you see a board of the city notifying you and letting you know that something is about to change.
Yeah, something is coming
in this environment, right? Now, what that thing is might be different, right? And maybe you've bought your property sometimes ago because you don't want to live in a manufacturing environment,
right?
And now the bylaw has changed, and they're informing you that there's about to be a commercial activity coming into that area. Now, for us, we're able to see that on the system in terms of the geographical plan that the city has, in a long time. For example, we wanted to buy, if you remember, one of the things we looked at for the church property,
the
was
official,
a railway.
The official plan of the city.
Yeah, well, there's going to be a railway. It may not happen now, but it's an official plan.
It's coming.
It's coming, which could inconvenience the use of that particular building, right?
Absolutely.
So these are the kind of things you wouldn't think about it because you're just thinking about the now, and whatever it is right now. Another thing I also noticed the fact that.
And so, can I also mention that can also work to the benefit of the buyer?
Yeah, absolutely.
So so for instance, now with the Lakeshore East expansion towards Bowmanville, for the GO station.
The GO station.
So now
that's
we know
create more value.
Exactly. And in the long term, we know that that's going eastward. So go where the GO is going.
So if you are worried there's no GO, we're telling you, you know what, it's coming.
Yeah, we don't know when because that's up to
the government,
other factors
right?
and stuff. But we know that in terms of value, when there's transit in a particular area and location, that tends to improve the value of properties in that location, at that point in time. Again, you can get in now, you can get in closer to that time, but again, you can't really time.
Yeah.
Or tell
another thing I noticed is the fact that I know that I think is another value added. Why I think working with a professional realtor is your best advantage. The fact that the use of the property, use of property, right? Not every property permits some certain things. For example, condo. For example, you might be thinking of using it for your office
or Airbnbs,
right?
That's a big one that happens to a bunch of people.
Yeah, and
the bylaw change,
or even the condominium management. In the act, of the condo, you're not allowed to use it for.
But you bought it as an investment
with intention, and it's very. So that means if you're caught, that could be a reason for you to use the property, or you'll be forced to pay penalty, or be asked to even sell to move out of property, even in a house, right? You might be thinking of, oh my God, it's a whole lot. Maybe there's a restriction, on your land already. Your neighbor has access to your like the easement, that you don't even know.
Those are the technicalities that you really, as a buyer, you don't have access to. You wouldn't have access to those things. Just work. I guess, like we said, just talk to an agent.
Absolutely.
Get. It's like the way it's like someone. So I heard this analogy once, and I feel like it's very, very, is very, very relatable in the sense that someone said, okay, can you perform a surgery on yourself? If you're a doctor, for instance, right? Let's assume someone is a doctor. You can probably perform the surgery on somebody or on yourself if you choose to.
Yeah.
But should you do that?
No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So speak to the professionals that can help you, assist you in that buying transaction, and just speak with a realtor, either one you trust, the YRJ guys.
No, as a matter of fact, you don't have this is the best team you want to work with. So I'm not even marketing for anybody else. I'm telling you that If you are considering a realtor, you don't want to look further.
In Durham region of the GTA.
This is a very awesome guy. I've known him as a brother, very professional, very ethical, strong values,
and
right?
same for
I mean,
for him
so
as well.
so you don't want to think further. The YRJ, it's your real estate journey. We want to be on this journey with you. We want to walk you through it, walk it with you. You know, I mean, without no context, and then make sure that you have a great experience. Okay.
Absolutely.
I know the sellers feel like, oh my God, what's going on today? It's about the buyers.
Yeah,
oh, don't worry.
We'll
We
touch on
got
that.
you. We
We'll
got
touch on
you.
that.
We got you.
We'll
We're
touch
going to
on
touch about. We're also going to touch on the sellers. You know, why you need a realtor or an
help
agent
sell
to
your
help
property.
you sell your property on our next episode. So you want to stay glued to this channel, to this podcast. Till we see you again.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you for joining.
Your
I
real estate
remain
journey.
Joe.
And I'm Nasser.
Have a wonderful day.
Take care, guys.
Take care. Bye.